Okay, I've hit record and I'm about to share the screen with the beginning here. All right. So the beginning is the welcome to Celtic spirituality. And what I'm going to talk about today is calling the spirit wheel to honor the spirits of the land. We did that just a few minutes ago, and I will talk just a little more about that. I'll talk about what Celtic spirituality means to me and how we manifest it. How did we disconnect from our spiritual link? And remembering who we are, respecting the elements, the fire, earth, air, and water, and the divine. And you'll see pictures as we go through this. Most of these are my own photographs. And I've tried to, at most of them, list the location. This is Newgrange in Ireland. So the spirit wheel has many different explanations, but essentially the east is illumination, the south is creativity, the west is introspection, and the north is that challenge, the courage to stand up and be who we really are. And in the Celtic spirit wheel, the elements that accompany those are, as they're shown here, the east, the air, the south, the fire, the west, the water, the north, the earth. Other traditions sometimes put those in different places, but this is the way that I honor the spirit wheel. So we're going to refer to some of the places, certainly not all of the places in the Celtic world, but this is a picture that was taken at Glastonbury. And what we're talking about really is pre-Celtic spirituality. We don't have a name for that. There are no texts, there are no sacred texts, no archaeological records to specifically say this is what Celtic spirituality is. We follow intuition and soul memory to bring us to this. And sometimes we find some writings, some fairly ancient writings to help guide us. But I'll be talking about Scotland, about Wales, about England. Of course, Glastonbury is there in southern England, and Ireland, part of where my heart is. But before we begin into Celtic spirituality, let's talk about spirituality for just a minute. It is not a religion. It can coexist with any practice of religion, or can be totally celebrated outside of religion. So, just in your own mind, think about what you believe spirituality actually is. I would say that it's connecting or perhaps reconnecting ourselves with the divine. And it's also about taking our rituals. We all have rituals, whether we remember or acknowledge that they're rituals. We have our rituals and our practices. And so all of those, I think bringing those into ourselves and connecting with the divine is part of our spirituality. The Hopi Indians believe that all the world religions contain this thread. And, Joseph Campbell, who is no longer alive, but did much in the world of spirituality, said very much the same thing, that all religions have a basic similarity. And the question is, will we look for the differences or will we look for the similarities? So what is Celtic spirituality? Well, I consider it embracing the interconnectedness of all living beings. The mountains, the rocks, the minerals, the plants all around us, the waters, all of the elements, all a part of the interconnectedness of living beings. And so how do we manifest a connection? Manifesting the connection through sacred ceremonies, whatever those may be to you, This is a bonfire at one of the eightfold Celtic holy days. We might do it with poetry and song. We might use cludies. Now, cludies are a tradition, particularly in Ireland and some of the other Celtic areas. A cludie is a piece of cloth, hopefully. It's a natural fabric that will actually disintegrate over time. But taking a piece of fabric and putting a prayer into that fabric and tying it on a tree so that the winds may blow those prayers out into the world, that the vibration of the prayers have an impact on those we're praying for or those things that we're praying about. So you see this at many, many locations, especially at holy wells in the Celtic world. And they're found in a lot of different places. Another way to manifest the connection is with prayer and ceremony and with art. So looking at what works for you in the manifestation of the connection is what's important. And seeing the divine in each one of us, that's what we're looking for. Where is the divine in all of us? The divine in the things that we love is easier to find. What about the divine in the things and the people we don't like? That's a greater challenge. And one of the problems is that in the Western world, we have come to the belief that we are masters of the earth, that the earth and all of living creation is just here for us to use. I think the direction was for us to be the stewards of the land, but we've turned it into using the land for our own purposes. But in Celtic spirituality, we regard every person as good and full of promise. And every tree, every rock, every plant, everything around us could be a dwelling place of the divine, a dwelling place maybe even of a deity. So this is a picture from my backyard, and well, I see faces in trees. And it's, for me, it's a reminder that the trees too are living beings. John O'Donoghue was a famous Irish writer. And in his book On Cara, he had a beautiful quote: "Behind your image, below your words, above your thoughts, the silence of another world waits." And another world is implied. Otherworld, which is a term that's used in the Celtic. You'll see me refer to that word several times through this presentation. Otherworld is where our ancestors are. This world, the human world, there's another world around us that is filled with, I'd say, the unseen beings. In the Celtic language, we might call them fairies and gnomes and things like that. But otherworld is referring to the place where the ancestors dwell, where the imagery or the legend of the gods and the goddesses dwell. That's otherworld, and it's a specific term in that Celtic spirituality. But let's talk about where Celtic spirituality began. This, of course, is Stonehenge, and many of us think of that as the ultimate symbol of the Celtic world, even though this probably was not among the first that was built. But yearning for the divine predates Celtic spirituality. 32,000 years ago, there were cave paintings in France that indicated a yearning for or a seeking to become one with the divine. Almost 12,000 years ago, Goblet, I never can say this quite well, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey has been discovered in more recent years. And it's almost 12,000 years old. In Egypt, we believe the Sphinx is probably 9,000 years old, could be older. In Ireland, they're fairly certain that the first megaliths, I'm getting a notice that my speaker is not working correctly.
Connected to desktop 1 PT2HLT.
I hope that didn't disrupt what you were hearing. I got a notice on mine saying that my speaker was not working, so I'm hoping that you heard me all the way through. So let me see. Let me go over to the chat here for just a minute. Okay, no disruption, all good. All right, great, thank you. So the megaliths at Carramore and Ireland are at least 6,000 years old. So we're looking at ancient times before Celtic spirituality, before even pre-Celtic came into existence. And during this time period, the sacred feminine or the divine feminine was really the spiritual direction where we went. It's often called a time of the goddess. And it was a time of peace. We actually have archaeological evidence to support that. The villages which have been excavated did not have defense perimeters. And later in time, villages all had defense forts or moats or something that showed that we were in a defensive state. And in those early times of the sacred feminine, sacred spaces were found in the middle of the villages, and there were sacred rooms within the homes with altars and things like that. And this was not a period of matriarchy power over men, but a period of cooperation and harmony through this time period. So let's talk for just a minute about the Druids. In the Irish tradition, they're called the Tuatha De Danann, and the Druids were a part of that lineage. These were the gods and the goddesses, the pantheon of gods and goddesses in the Irish tradition. And there's legend that they actually were trained in Egypt and sent to Ireland. Anyway, they predated the Celts. And what Druids did, certain lines of the Druids, memorized hundreds and thousands of sacred verses, sacred wisdom, and passed this down through oral tradition. We don't have much in writing because the Druids did not put things in writing, but we have some word of mouth that's passed down, and many of that was recorded by the early monks as Christianity came into Ireland. What we do know is that Tuatha De taught three very important things that are foundational in what we call Celtic spirituality today. Honor the gods, meaning honor the divinity, the divine oneness, whatever word that you need to put into that, but honoring the divinity. Do no evil and live courageously. The Tuatha De's teachings are still very important today, but we forgot over time. We did not remember. We seemed to let who we truly are slip away, and we forgot about that wholeness with the earth. Technology, engineering, even Western religion convinced us that we are masters of the earth. And even in our spiritual life, organized religion, not always from the beginning, even in Christianity, but over time, a human mediator was put in place to separate the individual saying that the individual could not pray directly to the God. And perhaps this was a method, this was put into place to help put a stop to some pagan practices. But at any rate, again, it was part of the division, taking us one step further away from the divine. You see, we've become exiled from our own spiritual link because we have come to believe that we are all separate. But today, in today's world, there is a movement toward that rebalancing. There is ecological and environmental research in psychology, even in science, especially in the area of quantum physics research. You see, the old thinking, I think you can see my arrow here. This is the way that science taught us about atoms and molecules, that they were all separate and they had these energy lines around it and it was a separate event. But today, science is really telling us that we are all connected. And so this is one representation of what we're looking at today with the symbol of the atom as a vibrating pulse, showing the interconnectedness to all things. We even are able to measure the electromagnetic field around the human body. And this is just a mock-up of it because any pictures that I could find were copyrighted. But you can look online for the tube torus. The heart actually creates this electromagnetic field that emanates from the heart and out around you. Another word might be aura, but I'm not completely sure that it's the same as the aura, if that's a term that's familiar to you. But at any rate, it's an electromagnetic field that shows around us. Heart Math Institute talks a lot about the heart, and if you're interested, you could follow that, research that. When we focus at the heart and not the mind, we receive and send forth information at a very different kind of place. You know, maybe ancient indigenous people knew something that we've lost in our culture. We really are all one. We really are all interconnected. And so we have to change our thinking on that. And Celtic spirituality supports that thinking of we are all one. So mystical literature, over time, always has referred to visions of the spirit behind nature, within nature, as a part of nature. So Celtic spirituality believes that the natural landscape is alive, that there's an indwelling spirit within. And D.H. Lawrence, an English writer, was very much opposed to the modern industrialization. And this is a quote from him: "Oh, what a catastrophe, what a maiming of love when it was made a personal, merely personal feeling, taken away from the rising and the setting of the sun, and cut off from the magic connection of the solstice and the equinox. This is what the matter is with us. We're bleeding at the roots because we're cut off from the earth and the sun and the stars, and love is a grinning mockery because, poor blossom, we plucked it from its stem on the tree of life and expected it to keep on blooming in our civilized vase on the table." So I suggest that we make life a living prayer. And a part of what you might do with that is create an earthing morning ritual. So each morning, go outside. And if you're not able to do that, if you live in an apartment on the 25th floor and you just can't quite get out there yet before your day has started, in your mind, go out into nature. Either physically if you can, and if you cannot, do it in your mind. Go into the nature and create a morning salutation or a morning prayer. And if you can, take your shoes off and put your feet directly on the earth. And again, if you can't do that, in your mind, sense your feet touching the earth, going into the earth. Another thing might be to take out your morning coffee or your morning tea. And before you take that first sip, you honor the divine by just pouring a small bit on the ground and thanking the universe for the abundance that you have in your hand, that cup. Or sit and listen to the sounds around you. Celtic spirituality can be manifest in many ways. So respecting the earth and honoring the spirits of the earth is talking about the elements. And we talked about the fire, earth, air, and water as we call the directions. But in the Celtic belief, those elements are not just out there someplace. They're a part of us. As humans, we actually are made of fire, earth, air, and water. And everything is a flow, a stream of consciousness from that non-ordinary reality. The question is this physical world that we're in a reality, or is the other world actually reality? So I want to talk for just a minute about earth-centered Celtic practices, honoring fire, earth, air, and water. First, acknowledging that the old ways still have something to teach us, that our modern world is not all there is. There may be very much that comes through from ancient writings and from the intuition within us. And valuing the elementals. The elementals are the fairies and the gnomes and the sprites, and you may not be able to see them. You may never be able to see them. Some people can. Other people sense them as a presence. Other people have no awareness of where they are at all. But being aware that they're there, that there is something other than just the physical world around us, and remembering to respect the animals, all the plants and trees and rocks and minerals, and remembering to be kind to the other humans around us, those we love and those we don't care so much for, and remembering the ancestors. So let's talk about the elements for just a minute. First, the air, the invisible world. We can't see the air, but we know that it's there. It's the element that really sets life into motion with our breathing. We are breathing beings, and that's a part of the air, the ebb and flow. Our inner world is also composed of air, that spirit world. So we honor that with the calling of the directions. We honor that sometimes with prayer flags. Prayer flags are like the kluties. The prayers are put into these flags, pieces of fabric, and hung into the air to blow those blessings into the atmosphere, into the other beings, into the vibration of the world. And the birds were believed to be messengers of the other world. There are many legends about the swans, the children of Lear from the Irish, the birds of Rhianna from the Welsh myth, and other stories. But the birds also are said to bring the fresh ideas into the windows of your mind. So again, that's remembering the air, the element of air. And then we move to fire. The primary agent of transformation, the direction of creativity, the origin of the world is said to have come from fire. So fire within our physical bodies is the heat that's within us. We are warm-blooded beings. There are cold-blooded. We are warm-blooded. So the fire is within us. And it's said to be within the core of the earth, that there's a molten core of heat there. So we want to honor that fire through ceremony. Sometimes bonfires, the Celtic holy days are celebrations where we always try to do a fire whenever possible, so that we honor that in ceremony with the fire. Then water. Water is the element that cleanses and heals. As I said earlier, the fires of the south may burn away the things that you need to release, and then the waters of the west may wash over you and clear away the debris, the ashes of passing away, those things that you no longer need. Also, and we know from modern research that water carries information, many different kinds of research related to that. And the ancients told us that the water originated in the otherworld. And part of the Celtic tradition, those Celts who lived near the Danube River named it the Danube after the goddess Danu, and the word means waters from heaven. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, the Tuha de Dana is another version of the word Danu. So we're talking about the waters of heaven. The Shannon River and the Boyne Rivers in Ireland were said to have originated in the pool of hazelnuts, which is in otherworld. The salmon, many, many legends of the salmon and associated with wisdom, are supposed to have originated from the land of truth, which is part of the otherworld. So I'm seeing some hands raised. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that, let me jump into chat and see if, okay, someone is asking me to speak up, so I will do that. I'll speak louder. Yes, I'm saying some wonderful things in the chat. Thank you. And we'll look at those in a few minutes when we come out of the slideshow. But the important thing about the water is where the water and the land meet, that is considered a thin place where humans could connect with those individual those forces that cross over. And another part of the water are the holy wells. They're all over the world. Ireland alone is supposed to have 3,000 holy wells identified. And it's just, it's a testimony of how powerful this belief was among the Celts and the pre-Celts with the water. Usually in much of the Celtic world, there is some sort of a shrine or built around it, and people will come and leave objects that are special to them, or pictures of their loved ones, or messages within there. This is a picture of Bridget's Well, and there are dozens of Bridget's Wells in Ireland. This one is at Ishnok, which is the center of Ireland. This is the picture of the Holy Well in Glastonbury. And these are the waters from that holy well flowing down. This is very iron rich. That's why it looks so brown. And this is a pool that's at the end of this flow that's said to have healing properties, and you walk through this to absorb the healing properties into your body. And Tara is one of the royal sites in Ireland. This is the holy well down the steps into here, and this is a picture taken with the camera through the wire, through the gate there at the holy well in Tara. So we move to the earth. The earth. Both our planet and the element of earth are what we're referring to here. The dirt, the rocks, the rooted beings. When we work with the earth, we forget to ask what we can give to the earth, because it's in our culture that we take from it. But if you were a part of the summit, you may have heard several of the speakers refer to giving to the earth when you go and ask for balance and go to visit with the earth. Cornmeal, tobacco. Some people talked about leaving, your hair if you forget, if you're in the woods and you haven't brought anything to leave as a gift. I often ask people when I do the Celtic ceremonies to bring flowers so that we put flowers in the earth. So whatever you can to give to the earth. We go to the earth to recharge, but we have to remember to give back to her as well. So one of the ways to honor the earth is to be more alive. Be more alive, more awake, sensitive to the divinity pulsing through the universe. This incredible picture I took in Canada. I was there in 2017 and 2018 at the, this was a commemoration of the 150th year of Canada being a country. And this was a display where each of the provinces in the country contributed something to, this is in a very large park in Gatineau. And she is made totally of plants, leaves, flowers, and every day replenished and watered. It was a magnificent display. And you can see from the little boy in the lower part of the picture how large she actually is. So Celtic spirituality's relationship to the sacred can open a doorway, can open our eyes to see in a different way, to see an enlightenment, to see the true warmth within us and everything in front of us. So echoes of the elements are found in all sorts of blessings. And so I'd like you to take just a minute and either close your eyes or focus on these steps. This is from a park at Powers Court in Ireland, and the steps are taking you down into another world. So receive this blessing from old times. May the roads rise to meet you. May the sun warm your face. May the rain fall gently on your fields, and may the wind be ever at your back. Until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of her hand. So receive that blessing. And remember, the Celtic moral code says, live from deep inner knowledge of heart and soul. Manifest it by physical action and be true to your own word. So what does Celtic spirituality ask of us? To be mindful of what you project into the world, both consciously and unconsciously. You are always creating intention, whether you believe that it's an intention, it may be unconscious, but whatever we think is an intention that we've put out, and they do manifest. So keep focused on on your thoughts so that you are conscious of what you're saying, because you are releasing those out into the world. And you can focus on your goals and desires to become one with the divine and let that come into the wisdom of your soul. So go with focused intention, united with your heart, and remember that that creates your life experience. So sit for just a minute looking at this picture. This is the Cailleach stone, or it's also called the Hag of Vera, on the southern peninsula of Ireland. The energy from what we've talked about today is being sent into your heart. And if you will open to it, it will be there and absorb and flow through you for the next several days. So all of what you hear today is not the end of this message coming in and through you. And if you're ready to go deeper, into the study of Celtic spirituality, I am offering a course. I'll send out an email later with the link for this recording, and it will also have the link for the course. But very briefly, I want to tell you what's going to be included in the course. Week 1, this will start July the 1st. It'll be once a week for an hour and a half to 2 hours per class. I'll focus on the Celtic Spirit Wheel for the entire first class, about what it is and the meanings behind it, what it represents, how you can do this yourself and see the connections between the directions and the elements. And week 2 is walking a path to the sacred, looking at the relationship between the ancient sacred sites, the timeless legends, looking at the sacred symbols of the labyrinth, the Vesica Pisces, the Triskel, the altars, and thinking about how to create your own path to the sacred. Week 3, I'll do the eightfold ceremonies. The celebrations are the harvest-based Imbolc, Beltane, Lucina, and Samhain, and then the cross-quarter days of the equinoxes and the solstices. So we'll talk about those and what those celebrations mean and how to do those and how to connect with those. In week 4, we'll be connecting with art and poetry and prayers to the ancient sites and the ancient ones. And we'll study about the Cailleach, about the Tuhadé, Scotia and the Egyptians, the Druids, dreaming, Oran Moore, and things like that. And so I am offering a discount on this course. Most of these courses are, I don't know, $200 or $300, $300 or $400. And I want to offer this one for $160. And I want to offer a bonus to the first 3 people who register will receive a free timeline healing session with me. And on that website, there's more explanation, more description of what that timeline healing is. So if you're interested in looking at that. So let me get out of here. Oh my goodness. So I'm seeing lots and lots of messages in here. And it's so wonderful. Thank you all so much for all that you've posted. And I will go back and read this. And please go back and listen again if you think you missed some of that. Let me once again post because I know it's far back in there. This is my email address, and I have the two websites. You can go to either one, and if you're not already on the mailing list, feel free to sign up on either one of those. It's just such a wonderful, exciting adventure. And I'm so happy that you have been with us, been with me today to go on this Celtic spirituality journey. And, obviously today was an introduction, but a whole section in and of itself. And if you're interested in going deeper, please do join me for the course, if you can do that. And, you can do some research on your own about some of Celtic spirituality. It's there is no specific guideline. There is no specific manual. There is no way that is right or wrong. It's a way of living. It's a way of being one with the divine, connected to the energies of nature, living in harmony with the earth, living in harmony with the vibration of the land, living in harmony with the seasons, wherever you live, whatever kinds of seasons you have, remembering to be in harmony with all of that. So, thank you. I'm getting lots of wonderful messages here coming through. And I just really thank you so very, very, very much. I'm seeing 168 people who've been on here today. I'm not sure if that number fluctuated while we were looking at it or not, but please do feel free to email me. I try to answer every single one that comes through. So I'm seeing. There's a YouTube, there's a poem with Native American flute in there. Yeah, someone has put that in. So I will stay on for just another couple of minutes. So if you want to scroll back through the chat and look at, I won't be able to, to read all that are in here right now. But if you want to scroll back through and see any websites that people have posted. I've posted mine, of course, and some others may have posted some other things in there. Oh, there's someone from Istanbul here. Yeah, wonderful. Oh, this is just, it's so wonderful that so many of you have joined from so many places. I'm very, very happy to be here and to share this with you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I will say farewell for today. I will be in touch this afternoon after the recording is saved. I will post the recording on the website, and I'll send out an email giving you the link to that website and more information about the course if you're interested in looking at that. And thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. Goodbye.